Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, March 18th, 2024. And as I began driving, I thought of something that I wanted to share, even though I just did another video right before this one about, you know, the challenges of driving and creating content, as well as some other information. So check it out. Anyway, one of the things that I wanted to share is what is known out in the spiritual community as shadow work. And yesterday I had a really great example. I was listening to someone else's content and I really enjoyed her presentation. It was the first time that I had listened to her, but there was something about what she was saying with shadow work and the evolution process. And at that time, with the vibration she was carrying, there was something within me that told me to stop the video and do my inner reflection of shadow work. And it's not something new to me. I've done this quite a bit for all different types of situations and relationships. But when you first begin shadow work, there is there's a lot of confusion. There is lack of trust within our own abilities, lack of discernment, lack of clarity, because we are, stepping from one world of who we were and trying to step into another version, even though not knowing what that version of ourselves will be when we're discovering and revealing connections. So in my example yesterday, when I felt the guidance within me to stop the video and then do a shadow work on a specific relationship, I do a tracking process, which is not uncommon, and it's really not complicated. The prerequisite to doing a tracking process is to be really relaxed with how you do that, but even more so, like being very, very accepting and open to what is revealed when you're asking and tracking, okay, an energy. And what ends up happening is that I know when I first started my shadow work many, many, many years ago, I had resistance. I had resistance in, what do I ask? How do I get past this? And I realized that when I didn't want to ask something or didn't want to get past the situation is because I was part of my identity of how I got through those challenges. I was still connected to. It was justifying my behavior, and rightfully so. So when you're doing a tracking process, especially for yourself, I would highly recommend to try to be in a state of, relaxing and observing. Be an observer. Look at the situation as if you're watching a movie, a play, and you'll have reactive responses because it's going to trigger, an emotion. But if you can step back from it, like psychologically step back, like a memory, if you're not wanting to think about it. All right, that's what you do. You just step back from it. But in this process of shadow work, you're not going to step away from it per se, like not deal with it. You're going to say, okay, this is part of the work. I am calling this forward so I can review it and track the energy vibrations of what was really behind some of the actions, some of the the relationship challenges. Because sometimes, most people, or all of us, unless you do the work and you recognize the importance of owning what we contribute to a difficult aspect of relationships, when you realize the importance of that part of healing, game changer. Okay? It's so easy to blame other people for what has happened to us, and yes, there may be lots of instances where it was the other person's doing, but recognizing our contribution to that, how we could have done things differently, changed our responses, had more clarity and awareness, respect for the other person as much as ourselves for where we are at that moment. But if we had more awareness of these things at that time, it would not be what was, it has become at this point, later in the future, that we have to reflect back to heal and retrieve. It's not just about healing from past situations. It's retrieving the parts of us that we lost in that moment, that we didn't know who to be in those moments. Because when you gain clarity, you learn who you are, and you clear up the vibration of what you're attracting, all right? You're not going to have a lot of those situations. And if you do, you're going to learn how to navigate through them better, and that's the bridging part. So from difficult, challenging relationships, or what you attract in your life that is challenging, the bridging point is going to be the recognition, the retrieving, the recognition of everybody's parts and how they played in it, the retrieving as to the part of yourself, not the other person. The other person has to do their own work. But when you become aware of the work to be done in the shadow work of yourself, okay, then you claim your responsibility of your part in it. And then that starts beginning the detangling of energies from the other person or situation. So then what happens, you retrieve the parts of yourself that did not know how to navigate through that situation at that time. And you bring it back to you. You can do a healing process at that time. Apologies to yourself. I'm so sorry, I wasn't aware. But I'm here now. We'll work this out, and just integrate that part of yourself that was lost in those challenging situations. And then you'll start seeing the wisdom, the growth potential for yourself, how collecting, going back to doing shadow work will, you'll start feeling whole, because retrieving your parts, your energetic selves that were stuck in those challenging places, you have no idea the imprint that your energy signature leaves behind. If it was something that was not necessary to review, there would not be an imprint for you to go back to heal. So, and this is the process of working with shadow work. There's many examples, processes that you can research for yourself that is in alignment with your natural way of discovering things. What is your natural process of asking? What is your natural process of learning? What is your natural process of finding others that you can resonate with? That is where you begin. Okay? It's not about adopting somebody else's process. If it does not align with you, if it is not the way you would do things, you're going to have challenges in that process. I truly do encourage, and I'm a person that I like to discover how other people do things, why they do them, how long it took them, where they're at today. If that information is available to me, then I really enjoy understanding that. But no matter how many people I have researched, or I have listened to, or I have adopted a process, the only way for it to be consistent for me, or is because it has to be in alignment with my natural process of doing things. So I may take a little bit here, a little bit from one person, a little bit from another person, or I will create something myself because I'm coming back to myself and saying, okay, listen, all these other examples are wonderful, but if I can't commit and it is not consistent for me, and I can't relate to a regular practice with it, then I have learned it's because I need to find what is natural for me. And then I can adopt it into my regular practice of doing things. And then I could blossom from that. There's quite an expansion that occurs when you realize these things. So, for you, I encourage to, even to get to the very basic fundamental understanding. What is shadow work? It sounds, like kind of woo-woo or like a mystical thing, and it can be. But it is the aspects of ourselves that we do not want to look at. So if you're presented in the world, this persona, this person, okay, this is in the open. If there's something about yourself you don't want anybody to know because you haven't dealt with it, you're ashamed of it, it's not going to serve you in the wherever you're at in your life, those aspects of yourself are still very real, and they're going to be in your shadow. The parts of you you're not highlighting. Okay, so when you do shadow work, that means you're turning to the shadow parts of yourself, the things that you keep hidden. Okay, the pain, the traumas, the personality of ourselves that we don't like and we don't want anybody to see. Why is that there? Okay, so that's where you start. Define these things for you. What does shadow work mean to you? If you don't want to call it shadow work, call it something else. Call it whatever you want that resonates with you, so that way you can align with it and it can be accessible for you for your own healing process. And in this whole journey, please remember to be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Love yourself through the process, especially so much when you begin this part of the journey of your human experience. It is a very, when you get to a point of recognizing and really embracing the importance of this type of work in your life, if you're called to it, then it's something, it's calling to you to be done, okay? There will be people that have no idea. There will be people that don't understand this and this doesn't resonate with them. It's okay. It's not for them at the time. This is where we have to also understand when we're in relationships with people, when we have children, when we work in a big company, and then these things are starting to surface that we have to do for ourselves. This is our own work, okay? You can be an example for others in your family or whoever you interact with, but you're going to be an example by your changes, your shifting, your lightness, not very much your verbal expression, because if people don't understand, they tend to shut it off. They shut down, okay? They may be curious, but they'll get to a certain point where it's not resonant with them. And we just simply need to honor that. Honor their journey. Their journey is theirs, and honor your own. That doesn't mean that that has to hold you back and stop you from doing your work and, evolving, because this is the process of evolving. All right? It's collecting the parts of yourself that are left behind, that is calling our attention. A memory when we're younger, a situation that we contributed that had a negative outcome. How could we have handled relationships differently? Not saying things that now we regret that we've said. But all this requires a healing and an understanding and a diving into these particular scenarios, because the bottom line is how you don't know what you don't know. And now when you have much more clarity as to how you want to live your life, the person you want to become, and you review some of these past situations, which will come up. It doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but every so often a memory will show itself and say, now this current version of you realizes how, the impact of what that version of you was involved in or created or contributed to. Okay. So, but I also will